April 19, 1775. A quiet village in Massachusetts. Farmers were sleeping. The night was still, but before sunrise, a single gunshot echoed through the air. No one knows who fired it, but that shot changed the world forever. By 1775, tensions between Britain and the American colonies were at a breaking point. The Boston Tea Party had already happened. Britain had punished Massachusetts harshly. Troops filled the streets of Boston. The colonists felt watched, controlled, pressured. But something else was happening quietly. Across towns and villages, ordinary men were preparing. Farmers, blacksmiths, shopkeepers, they were forming militias. They called themselves Minutemen because they claimed they could be ready to fight in a minute's notice. Britain saw this as dangerous. General Thomas Gage, the British military governor of Massachusetts, received intelligence that the colonists were storing weapons in a town called Concord. If those weapons were seized, the rebellion might collapse before it even began. So he made a decision. On the night of April 18, 1775, around 700 British soldiers quietly marched out of Boston. Their mission was simple: confiscate the weapons, arrest rebel leaders Samuel Adams and John Hancock, if possible, return without incident. But the colonists had their own network: spies, riders, messengers. When the British began their march, the alarm spread quickly. One of the most famous riders was Paul Revere. Riding through the night, he warned villages, "The regulars are coming." Lanterns were lit in church towers. Doors opened. Men grabbed muskets. By dawn, the British troops reached the small village of Lexington. Waiting for them were about 70 colonial militia members. They weren't trained soldiers. They were ordinary men, standing on a village green. The British commander ordered them to disperse. The colonists hesitated. No one wanted to fire first. The tension was unbearable. And then a shot rang out. To this day, historians debate who fired that first shot. Was it a nervous militiaman, a British soldier, an accidental discharge? No one knows. But what happened next is clear. The British soldiers fired a volley. 8 colonists fell dead. The rest scattered. It could have ended there. A tragic misunderstanding, but it didn't. The British continued toward Concord. Along the road, more militias gathered. When the British reached the North Bridge in Concord, they met stronger resistance. This time, the colonists fired back. The British were forced to retreat, and during that long march back to Boston, colonial militias attacked from behind trees, stone walls, and houses. It wasn't a traditional battlefield. It was guerrilla warfare. By the time the British reached Boston, hundreds were wounded or dead. The war had begun. What makes this moment powerful isn't just the gunfire. It's who was fighting. Not professional armies. At first, not trained elites, but ordinary citizens. Farmers who left their fields. Fathers who kissed their families goodbye at sunrise. Young men who believed something simple: that they deserved a voice in their own government. The shot at Lexington became known as the shot heard round the world, because it didn't just start a local conflict. It sparked a revolution that would lead to the creation of a new nation, the United States of America. And here's the remarkable part. At the time, victory was far from certain. Britain was the most powerful empire on earth. The colonies were divided, poorly supplied, untrained. But something had changed. After April 19th, there was no going back. The line had been crossed. This was no longer about taxes. It was about independence, about identity, about whether ordinary people could govern themselves. Within months, the colonies formed a continental army. A man named George Washington would soon take command, and the war would last 8 long years. But it all began in a quiet village green, with confusion, with fear, with uncertainty, and with a single shot. History often remembers the grand battles, the famous speeches, the powerful leaders. But sometimes the world changes, because ordinary people decide they will no longer stand down. And on that cold April morning in 1775, America stood up.